During the final years of the Soviet Union, across the icy plains of southern Russia, there was a man who hunted children by train light and dusk. What followed became one of the most horrifying criminal investigations in modern history. Behind the Iron Curtain and layers of political denial, a predator was allowed to roam free for over a decade, aided not by darkness, but by bureaucracy, ideology, and silence. As investigators dug deeper, the murders became stranger, more ritualistic, more inhuman. Buried beneath stacks of classified documents, coerced confessions, and psychiatric evaluations soaked in ink and blood, lies the chilling truth of a man who believed that killing was the only way he could feel alive. This is the true story of the Butcher of Rostov, the man some called a monster, and others, a vampire in the flesh.
He was soft-spoken, polite, an educated man who taught school children and lived a quiet Soviet life. But behind the bland exterior of Andrei Chikatilo was one of the most prolific and grotesque serial killers the modern world has ever seen. Born in 1936 in a famine-stricken Ukrainian village, Chikatilo came into a world already soaked in horror. His childhood was the stuff of wartime nightmares. Soviet propaganda, starvation, and stories of neighbors resorting to cannibalism. In fact, his mother claimed his older brother was kidnapped and eaten by starving villagers. Whether true or not, that myth would shape Andrei's view of human flesh forever. By the 1980s, he had become a ghost moving across the Soviet countryside, boarding trains, watching platforms, waiting for someone to fall behind the crowd. And when they did, he became the Butcher of Rostov. Between 1978 and 1990, Chikatilo confessed to over 50 murders, though the true number may be higher. His victims were often children and young women, and his method was disturbingly personal. He lured them with promises of food, work, or help. He stabbed them, repeatedly, frantically, often more than 30 times. He mutilated their faces, gouged out eyes, and bit through flesh. In some cases, he ate pieces of their bodies, and then he walked away, calm, clean, almost invisible. But there was something else. Witnesses said he was almost euphoric after the killings, shaking, moaning, eyes wide with a sort of ecstasy. And Chikatilo himself later confessed, "When I killed, I got relief from it. I felt like a father. I drank their blood. It made me feel alive." That's when rumors began to circulate, that this wasn't just a man, but a vampire hiding in Soviet clothes. Soviet authorities didn't believe in serial killers. Officially, in a communist society, such a thing was a product of Western capitalist decay, which meant for years the police were forbidden from even saying the word. Bodies piled up, young girls disappeared, children were found in the woods, missing eyes, organs, or worse. But it wasn't until a single bloody fingerprint, matched with rare forensic blood typing, led them to Chikatilo in 1990 that the scope of the nightmare became clear. They had finally caught the Red Ripper, and what he confessed to shocked even the most hardened interrogators. During his interrogation, Chikatilo revealed the twisted engine behind his crimes. He said that he could only feel sexually aroused through violence and blood, that he felt emptied until the moment of killing. He described the warmth of blood, the flesh in his teeth, the power of watching life fade away. He called himself a mistake of nature. Some psychiatrists diagnosed him as suffering from clinical vampirism, also known as Renfield syndrome, where blood consumption becomes linked with sexual gratification. Whether or not he was truly a vampire is beside the point. He believed he was. Chikatilo's trial in 1992 was unlike anything the Soviet public had seen before. Because of the rage and horror surrounding his case, he was kept in a steel cage inside the courtroom. Like an animal, he ranted, he laughed, he screamed about organs and corruption. And at times, he wept. Out of 53 charges, he was found guilty of 52 murders. He was sentenced to death by gunshot. On February 14, 1994, a single bullet to the head ended the life of the Red Ripper. But his legend and the fear he created never truly died. Since then, Chikatilo has become the subject of books, films, documentaries, and even comparisons to Dracula and Hannibal Lecter. But what makes him terrifying is that there were no fangs, no castles, no full moon. Just one man with dead eyes and a compulsion that made blood feel like oxygen. In the end, the Red Ripper wasn't a vampire from folklore. He was worse, because he was real. In a world that refused to believe monsters could exist, Andrei Chikatilo thrived in the shadows. Was he a product of Soviet horror, a true vampire in the flesh, or just a broken man with a hunger for suffering? One thing is certain, he walked among us, and nobody saw him coming. Subscribe now to Horror Unfold, because what's buried in real history is often more terrifying than anything we could invent.